This problem leads right into our next unit, which is dealing with quadratics. We still do the same thing. We find a common denominator. We use inverse operations to remove the denominator. We distribute, we combine like terms, and solve. So I'm going to take the 4x minus 2 as the denominator on the right-hand side and multiply it by the numerator and denominator on the left-hand side. Because this is the multiplicative identity, 4x minus 2 over 4x minus 2 is 1. I also have to multiply the right-hand side by 1. Well, how do I write that 1? I write it as x over x, which is the denominator of the right-hand or the left-hand question. So now, I can either do all of this distribution right now, but I am going to try to get rid of the denominator first. So I'm going to leave it as 4x minus 2 times x plus 1 all over x times the quantity 4x minus 2 equals x times the quantity 3x plus 3 all over x times the quantity 4x minus 2. Notice that the denominators are the same. To remove them, you have to show your work and do the opposite or the inverse operation of the fraction bar. The inverse operation of the fraction bar is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply everything by x over, or x times the quantity 4x minus 2. Multiply the right-hand side by the same thing, and that is why we had to find a common denominator to start off with. So remove the fraction bar. You got to do the same thing to the left as you do to the right. So we had a common denominator before being able to remove it. These go away, and we're left with the quantity 4x minus 2 times x plus 1 equaling x times 3x plus 3. Let's take a look at the left-hand side and try to find out how to distribute that. You can either do the distribution mentally, or you can use the box method. The box method says write one of them on the top and the other one vertically and do the multiplication. What I mean by do the multiplication, I mean 4x times x goes in this location, and that is 4x squared. Negative 2 times x goes in this location, and that's negative 2x. 1 times 4x goes in this location, and that is 4x. 1 times negative 2 goes in this location, and that is negative 2. You can either combine them mentally right now, or write them down. 4x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 2. Are there any terms that we can combine here? Yes. The minus 2x plus 4x is just plus 2x minus 2. Again, I said that you could have done this mentally, or show your work. This one we're going to do mentally. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times the 3 is positive 3x. Now, we learned a new tool today in the classroom, and that said that whenever we have an exponent of 2, which is called a quadratic equation, we're going to take everything from the right-hand side and move it to the left. So I'm going to subtract 3x squared, subtract 3x squared, and I'm left with x squared plus 2x minus 2 equals 3x. I said everything, so we have to subtract the 3x I'm left with an x squared. I put the x's above each other, so that's minus 1x minus 2 equals 0. You have to have that equals 0. Without the equals 0, our step in 2 steps from now will not be able to work. So you ask yourself, and this is the new tool, can I factor this? Are there numbers that multiply to be negative 2 and add up to be negative 1? Write them down. It's x minus 2 and x plus 1. The negative 2 and positive 1 multiply to be negative 2 and add up to be negative 1. I bring down the 0. Now we have a property that we studied in the first month of school, and that property said that if we are multiplying two things together and the answer is 0, that either the first thing has to be 0 or the second thing has to be 0. Maybe both of them are 0. So that allows us to say x minus 2 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. I draw a new line, so we're separating these into two problems. I can either write down, I know what the answer is 2, or you can show your work that you are adding 2 to both sides. For this one, I can write down that I know the answer is negative 1, or you can show your work by subtracting 1 from both sides. We have two answers. The answers are 2 and negative 1. Let's take a look at the question. Okay, so far it said just solve for x. If I take a look at the left-hand denominator and ask us when is that undefined, it's only undefined when x is 0, so that would be 0. Neither of our answers are 0, so we're good. The right hand, that might take a little more work. 4x minus 2 equals 0. That's when it's undefined. We add 2 to both sides, and we say 4x equals 2. Divide both sides by 4. X is 1/2. That's undefined. Is it undefined at 1/2? Yes. Is x 1/2? No. X is 2 and x is negative 1. So both of those answers are valid answers. We don't have to cross out either of them.